continue to work with Balm, Flower Elixir. What I want to talk about this week is a phenomenon that we experience, which is that there will be something kind of happening under the surface that makes us a little bit frantic or nervous or distracted. And it's sometimes something that we don't necessarily want to deal with, or it's subtle enough that we can just sort of push it to the side. And this will be the time that we can address whatever that is head on and continue to develop the habit of turning toward what makes us feel uncomfortable or what brings us discomfort. Hopefully the bee balm is eliciting things to move around inside of you, maybe old things, maybe recent things, in a way such that you can tell that they're there, that it becomes very obvious. And so I just want to share about, like, I'll just use a personal example. In the past couple of weeks, I've been sort of disturbed by something that's going on, and probably no one would really know it. It's something that's very sort of minor. It's not really a big deal. It's happening in the background, but it's distracting enough to where I'll be in a situation where I'm with friends and I'm having a great time, but there's this like little river of thoughts in the background that is distracting or kind of disturbing me. And it's something that I can catch myself like, just sort of stuff it, or like don't pay attention to it, or focus on what's good. And instead of doing that, I've been making a concerted effort the last week or two to really just stop and take a break and turn toward whatever it is that is distracting me, even though it's subtle, and address what it is that's creating this kind of frantic sensation. And I know logically why this situation would sort of tweak me out. And probably there are parts of me that would say, gee, aren't you over that yet? Or, oh my gosh, that's so annoying. Just push it to the side. But rather than do that, again, I've been turning toward it and just sort of checking in with that part of me that feels frantic, like, what's happening? What are you afraid of? What are you feeling? When was the last time that you felt this before? And really trying to see how this particular situation has really, you could just tell yourself like, well, it's not that big of a deal, so you shouldn't get bent out of shape, and you could just gloss right over it. But the thing is one experience is tied to another, tied to another, tied to another. And there are these like little chain of knots. I see them as knots inside of us or in our consciousness. So we may be experiencing something that is just such a no big deal in today's life situation, but it's tied to other things that have happened to us that have been really disturbing at the time, that we may not have had the coping skills. Maybe when we were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old, we didn't have the capacity to understand what was happening or to take care of ourselves, or we were in survival mode. And so whatever situation is arising today is heightened. There's more intensity around it because it's sort of tied, or it's like a little bit of a repeat of, or we perceive it as a repeat of this whatever situation this was when we didn't have coping skills or didn't have a way to really healthfully, effortlessly, gracefully move through what was happening in our lives at the time. So now we can use today's life triggers to poke into those little wounded spaces of ours from any time in this life, or even before, if you believe in that, to sort of give us another opportunity to uproot those pieces and take a look at them and work with them with tenderness and compassion. I see time and time again, especially as Americans, although many other cultures have this sort of being hard on themselves quality as well, but Americans especially have this kind of deep-seated self-hatred or self-punishment pattern. And so oftentimes we can't even really get to what is the issue at hand, because there's this overlay of well, I shouldn't be feeling that way, or it's really stupid for me to be feeling that way, or I should be over it by now, or would you just kind of get out of the way so I can be happy in my life? So oftentimes we have to sort of move aside really gently the sort of protector pieces of ourselves so that we can get to what is actually the pain point or the question that's burning inside of us. Sort of like the core wound or reason why this sort of seemingly not a big deal situation in our lives today is touching into a painful wound. And although I'm not saying like you have to figure anything out or overthink things, it can be helpful to just be able to identify and acknowledge what is arising so that you can apply understanding, this kind of softness of understanding. Oh, yeah, I could imagine how someone could feel that way. I could feel tenderness and compassion towards someone who feels that way. If my best friend came to me and said, oh, I'm feeling this way, would I understand them? Yes. Would I judge them? No. Would I be like, when are you going to get over it? Most likely not. I would address them with compassionate, loving attention and awareness and presence. So this week, if anything arises due to the nature of Balm elixir, if you can get into the practice of turning toward whatever is that sort of low level frantic or disturbance in your energy and really turning toward it, looking at it, asking questions, being curious, being gentle, and above all, being understanding and loving. So the question for this week is, what is bubbling under the surface? Is there anything that is making you nervous, worried, frantic, uncomfortable, disturbed, or creating any sort of discomfort in your system? And can you turn toward that with curiosity and gentleness to find out what the experience is, where it's coming from, where the root is, and to apply compassion and understanding so it can be liberated forever.